How do you speak fluently in English? How do you speak confidently in English? How can you improve your English communication skills? This is by far one of the most requested videos on this channel, and today I have got 6 simple steps for you on how to improve your spoken English. Now, I don't come from an English-speaking household. Everybody in my house actually speaks or communicates in Hindi. But when we were growing up, my mom paid a lot of attention to improving our spoken English. She made a lot of effort. She made us do so many different exercises, learn everything about grammar, sentence structure, all of that jazz, to basically train us to speak well in English. Now, I understand that a lot of people do not have the privilege or the environment to grow up in a space like this, which is why the steps that I'm sharing with you today can be tailor-made to fit your situation, no matter what situation you're in, to improve your spoken English at any age. So, hit like, hit subscribe, and let's get started. Now, before we get on with the tips, have any of you guys ever wondered why we are not able to speak well in English, despite the fact that most of us have English as a subject in school, and most of our textbooks are also actually in English? Well, there are 2 potential reasons for this. One is that we are taught English the wrong way in schools. It's just a subject. We don't have enough incentive to want to make it a part of our lives, and that's because whatever we are taught in English is, well, pretty boring, and everything is done for the purpose of getting good grades. So, that kind of sucks all the fun out of learning a new language. There's this research by Dr. Stephen Krashen, which suggests that you become fluent in a language when you interact with things that are so interesting in that language that you forget that they are not in your native language. But that doesn't really happen in school. And the second reason is that English is just not a part of our day-to-day lives, right? You are surrounded by people who speak in your native language. So if you grow up in North India, that's most likely Hindi. If you grow up in Southern India, that's a bunch of different languages like Tamil, Telugu, Malayalam. Nobody is actually speaking in English. And so there's also not enough incentive for you to make yourself uncomfortable enough to speak a different language. Because of these 2 reasons, what ends up happening is that you become this person who always gets anxious when they do actually need to communicate in English. Now, whether we like it or not, English is more or less a universal language. It is the language of professional communication. So, I want you to overcome your fear. I want you to start getting confident while speaking in English and become fluent in this language. Our environment has a huge impact on how we speak and what language we speak, and what we hear is how we think, and how we think is what we speak. There's another research by this German scientist, Dr. Kathleen Wermke, who found that babies as young as 2 days old understand the tone of their native language. She analyzed the sound of crying of 60 newborn babies and realized that it actually resembles the melody of their native language. This means our environment starts to shape us since we are born. So, if you really want to change your old habit of not communicating in English, and if you want to learn the new skill of communicating in English, you have to start incorporating it into your environment, right? And the easiest way to do this is to change the medium that you consume content in. So, whatever you're watching, try watching it in English. The reason that I am so fluent in English and have gotten better over the years is because I primarily consume English content. All the shows that I watch, any YouTube videos that I watch, anything that I am watching in terms of the news, etc., everything is in English. I consume content primarily in English. The only time that I'm consuming Hindi content is when I go to watch a movie in the theater. And as a result of that, I am able to pick up all of these different cues. I'm able to improve my sentence structure on the go, and everything becomes better just with simple practice, simple exposure therapy. I just expose myself to the English language on a continuous basis, and that's exactly what you need to do. Even if you don't understand it completely, even if you understand parts of it, it actually starts by exposing yourself to more and more content in English. For example, if you like personal growth content, watch YouTubers who create that content in English. If you're trying to build a fitness routine, watch creators who are giving you advice on fitness in English. Whatever you enjoy, consume that content in English, and then you'll automatically start to enjoy consuming English as well. Now, doing this actually helps you in more ways than one. One, you get used to listening in English, and over time, it will feel very natural, and you don't have to translate it into your native language. Two, it helps you learn the correct pronunciation of complex words. And three, you learn the informal terms or slang that people use in everyday English. You have to understand that how you write in a language is very different from how you speak in a language, right? When you write in Hindi, you are writing should, pure Hindi. But when you communicate or speak in Hindi, it's a very colloquial, slang-based version of Hindi. It's not should Hindi, right? That's the same thing with English, and consuming content actually helps you understand what conversational English sounds like. And four, you actually gain interest-specific vocabulary. Over time, your vocabulary and your knowledge of the different words used in the space increase. For example, if you are somebody who loves skincare content, following a beauty creator who actually creates skincare content in English not only helps you know the latest trends in the skincare industry, but it also helps you learn the words and the phrases that you can use in your daily conversations. Another thing I also recommend doing when it comes to consuming content is reading more books in English. This can easily help you add 300 to 400 new words to your vocabulary every time you finish reading a book. Reading books also helps you improve your sentence structure and your grammar, and that's a double win. Every other tip on this list is irrelevant if you don't actually practice speaking in the language you want to get fluent in. You can consume content, read more books, and watch more videos, but if you're not actually speaking, well, then you're not improving your English. Now, most people who are not well versed in English try to avoid speaking in English in social settings because they're too afraid to make mistakes. They're afraid that they are going to freeze mid-sentence or say something that will not make sense. But most of all, people are just afraid to make a fool out of themselves. This fear is completely valid, but I'll say it again. You cannot get fluent in English unless you start speaking in English. Now, I'm not immediately going to ask you to go to a room full of people and just start speaking. That's not what this is about. One of the easiest and safest ways to practice your English speaking skills is by using a process called imitation, where you basically watch a piece of content in English and then try to summarize or speak about it in your own words. I would suggest going a step further and recording yourself while you are doing this exercise. So, let's say that you watched a 5-minute YouTube video. Once you've watched it, you're going to come back, sit in front of your phone, switch on your camera, and then record yourself summarizing what you just watched, but in English. Now, this actually serves two purposes. One, it acts as your video journal, right? You need to see that you are improving to stay motivated. Sometimes you get so obsessed with your final goal that you don't realize how far you've already come, and when you record yourself, you can easily track your progress and stay on track and stay motivated. 2. Speaking in front of the camera like this gives you a very different kind of confidence. You feel much calmer in social settings than you usually do. So, this is not just a tip to improve your English speaking skills, but it is a complete personality booster. A few other exercises you can try doing with this video journaling method include describing your day. At the end of every evening, switch on your phone camera and describe how your day went in English. Another thing you can do is choose an item in your room and spend 2 minutes describing that item or speaking about it with whatever information you can come up with while you're recording yourself on your phone camera. Both of these also serve the same purpose. Keep in mind that when you start out with this exercise, you will probably speak well for 30 seconds or a minute, and after that, you will want to switch to speaking in your native language. That is where the real challenge begins. You will most likely fumble a lot. You will even forget the most basic words that you already know, and you might feel like giving up. But once you start doing this for a week straight, I promise you that you will get better. And because you're facing all of the struggles in the privacy of your own room, nobody else is seeing it. You're actually much better off. You will be a lot more confident the next time you have to step out and speak to somebody else in English. Now, most of us struggle to speak fluently in English because we do not even know what we want to say. No, it's not because you have a limited vocabulary. Vocabulary is actually not so much of an issue when it comes to speaking fluently in English. If you can communicate something in your native language, trust me, you can also communicate it in English. You know enough words for that. The issue is that when you don't regularly speak in English, you don't actually learn how to think in English. You are thinking in your native language, and before speaking, you have to translate everything you're thinking into English, and then you have to speak. So, it's a multi-step process, and that is where the problem occurs. We speak well in the language that we think in. So if you're not thinking well in English, you're not speaking well in English. The easiest way to change that is a 10-minute journaling exercise. Every night, before you go to bed, grab your notebook, find a spot in your house, get comfortable, and start journaling. I would suggest starting by journaling about your day. Write about how your day went, what you did, what you liked, what you didn't like, everything. You can write to summarize your day on one single page. Journaling does a couple of different things. 1, it gives you clarity of thought. When you are continuously writing in English, when you practice this skill every single day, it trains you to get clarity of thought in English. It trains your brain to think in English. Secondly, it trains your brain to process your feelings in English instead of processing them in your native language, which is probably what you're used to doing. So, this actually is a non-skippable step. It only takes 10 minutes of your time, and gradually, you will become even faster. I can now sit and summarize my entire day, filling one page with writing in less than 5 minutes. It is not difficult. It just takes a little bit of consistent effort. But while you're doing this exercise, keep in mind that the purpose is not to improve your English. If you sit down to journal with that purpose in mind, you are actually going to draw a blank page. You're going to struggle to write anything because your brain will automatically tell you to make it perfect. And if you are not able to make it perfect, then you won't be able to write. So, the purpose of your journaling exercise is to process your feelings, write about your day, think about how your day went, and gain clarity of thought. The English part of it happens on autopilot, so you don't have to consciously worry about it. Just make sure that you are journaling for the purpose of journaling. You just happen to be doing it in English. It's completely okay, even if you're writing only a couple of sentences for the first few days, as long as you are writing every single day. Like I mentioned before, vocabulary is the last thing that you need to worry about when you are speaking in English, because you already know enough words, I promise you. What you need to focus on is how you are forming your sentences, and how well you understand the language from a grammatical perspective. Now, the reason that you all think that I speak so well in English is because I have a very solid command of English grammar and sentence structuring. If somebody else is speaking in broken sentences, if their grammar is off, you might not be able to tell immediately why it feels off, but you'll know that something is off, right? Think about it from this perspective. You could learn 10, 15, or even 100 different words in a language like French. But does that mean that you can speak well in that language? Well, probably not, which is why you need to focus more on improving your grammar and your sentence structure. How do you do that? One is by reading books, obviously, because that does help you understand how sentences are strung together and what good sentence structure looks like. This all happens on autopilot in your brain. Just reading more in English will help you get there. This is because before a book is published, multiple editors go through several different rounds of editing, and the goal of each of these editors is to produce an easily understandable, error-free book. This is why it is one of the best sources to work on your grammar and sentence structure. Another thing you can do is use this tool called the Hemingway editor, which is free to use. Now, Hemingway is a readability and proofreading tool that helps you improve and simplify your writing. How can it help you? Remember that journal entry that you made in the previous point? Just type it out in Hemingway and see how well your sentences are structured and whether your grammar is good or not. It is super easy to use. You simply have to copy-paste your text onto the website, and it will highlight everything that you can do to improve your writing. The reason that most people struggle to speak well in English or any other language, or to communicate effectively in general, is because they are afraid of looking like a fool in front of other people. But think about every single thing you've learned in life. Let's say driving. If you already learned it, what did you feel like on your first day of driving? It felt like everybody on the road was staring at you, right? Now that you have been driving for a few years, you know that that isn't true. Nobody cares about how you're driving. Everybody is too busy thinking about themselves, focusing on their own driving. This is exactly why you should not worry about embarrassing moments or embarrassing yourself in front of other people. So, if you're still not convinced, let's do this little activity. Think of someone you know. It can be anyone, your friend, your colleague, even your mom. Can you remember the last time they did something embarrassing? I actually spent a lot of time trying to come up with something embarrassing that my mom did, and I cannot remember for the life of me. I'm sure you cannot either. It's not because you don't have a good memory. It's because when it comes to other people's embarrassing moments, we are just not paying as much attention as they think we are. So now that you are starting to practice your spoken English skills, you cannot let the fear of embarrassment hold you back. But it's not just the fear of embarrassment. The other thing that holds people back is their ego, that feeling within us that wants us to be perfect, that wants us to be superior to other people. That is why we don't want to speak in broken English, and why we want to be perfect in English before we speak. Overcoming your ego is just as important as overcoming your fear of embarrassment. How do you do that? Start by acknowledging that your ego is, in fact, one of the reasons that is stopping you from getting fluent in English. A few things that can help you tackle both your ego and your fear of embarrassment are: 1. Taking criticism as feedback. It's okay if you make a mistake while you are learning how to be fluent in English. Even native English speakers cannot speak perfectly all the time. Do you know how many times this video had to be cut in the middle because of all the fumbles that I had? Here's a little sneak peek of that. It is the language of professional communication and, which is, now, keep in mind that when you're starting with this exercise, everything that you summarize everything. Everybody makes mistakes, even people who can speak extremely fluently, even people who don't know any other language besides English. Making a mistake does not mean that you can't speak fluently. So, if somebody is correcting you, if somebody points out a mistake that you've made, take it in stride. Take it as a learning experience, and you will not feel embarrassed anymore. Also, when you take criticism and feedback confidently, instead of shying away from it or getting defensive, you actually come across as a very confident person. 2. Remember that speaking fluently or speaking well in English is not a sign of being smart. You are not dumb if you are unable to speak fluently in this language. Most of the time, we feel that if we speak in broken English, others will think we're not intelligent enough and will see us as inferior to them. But that's just not true. Once you start believing this fact, you will actually become a lot more relaxed when you are speaking, and that will also translate into you speaking more confidently. I've already spoken about the importance of this. You speak well in the language that you think in. If you are thinking in your native language, you will speak well in your native language. If you are thinking well in English, you will speak well in English. Now, most people are not able to do this because, let's say, every exercise that I've spoken about so far, you will do it for 5 to 10 minutes a day. But then, what about the rest of the time? How do you speak well the rest of the time? Because 5 minutes a day is great. It's great to begin your practice, but it's probably not enough to change the way your brain thinks. So, there are a couple of different tips that you can actually use to train your brain to start thinking in English. What happens when you think in your native language and you're communicating in English? Like I mentioned before, you think of a response or whatever you want to say in your native language, then you translate it to English in your mind, and then you actually have to speak it aloud in English while that translation is still going on in your head. That makes it really confusing. A few things that you can do here, and try these out throughout the day whenever you remember, will actually improve your spoken English a lot. 1. Describe the moment that you're in. Let's say you're speaking with somebody, and you remember, oh, I need to communicate in English. Go ahead and start by describing your present moment. What are you doing at the moment? Whatever is happening around you, start speaking about that in English. I know it might sound a little awkward, but you can do this very easily if you're communicating with friends who know that you are trying to improve your English. Or, let's say you're talking on the phone and you remember something about work. Try and tell that information to the person you are speaking to. I'm getting ready to go to work. I have this presentation today, and I have to deliver that effortlessly so that I can work on my promotion. Something like that. This basic activity actually helps you consciously change your thinking language from your native language to English, and over time, it becomes a very automatic process. 2. Think out loud. I know you can't do this everywhere, but when you are at home and again, you suddenly remember that you need to communicate better in English, whatever you're thinking. Just say it out loud. But say it in English. This way, you actually get used to hearing yourself speak in English, and thinking out loud also helps in case you unconsciously switch to your native language. It will happen a lot, but with practice, it will become easier. The third thing you want to do is make English your background score. Growing up, you were not even trying to learn your native language. It was always there in your environment. You unconsciously, subconsciously learned it and absorbed it, and we want to do the same thing with English. You can really easily do this by making it your background score. This simply means that you play English songs, English podcasts, English conversations, or just English content in general in the background whenever you are doing boring or mundane things, or when you're doing your day-to-day chores like cleaning your room or doing your laundry. Even if you're not listening to it consciously, your brain will actually pick up on the sentence structure, the grammar, the words, and the phrases, and it will get used to listening to and thinking in English. English fluency is like any other skill. It is learnable if you are willing to put in the effort. But our standards are ridiculously high when it comes to becoming fluent in English, and this leads to a lot of frustration and feelings of demotivation, which can make it hard for you to continue your journey. To tackle this, you need to accept the fact that it will take a few months for you to reach your goal, to reach a new level of English fluency. Have that patience, show yourself that kindness, and just keep doing all of these 6 things that we spoke about today. That was it from my side. I hope you enjoyed this video and took away something from it. If you did, make sure you check out this video, because YouTube says that you're going to love it as well. I'm going to see you very, very soon in the next one. Bye.